Uh, 404, we're going to go ahead and get things kicked off. Thanks for joining. Really excited to have you here for our first of a few what will be CyberChef Polarity trainings. So if you do have Polarity running and are able to follow along, you have the CyberChef integration, that'd be awesome. Here in a minute, I'll go through some resources that you can kind of reference and kind of follow along as we're doing stuff. But get things kicked off, for folks that don't know me, my name is Joe Miller, the Director of Product here at Polarity. And joining us for the first time during his first webinar is our amazingly awesome integration developer, John Penwood. He's the one who puts together a lot of the integrations that folks use, and he was the main developer on our CyberChef integration. So with that, going to kind of just go through what we're going to be talking about. Again, this is meant to be a training, so if you do have Polarity installed and you have CyberChef ready to go and you can follow along, if you go to our GitHub page, github.com/PolarityIO, and then you can actually navigate directly to the CyberChef integration. And then if you scroll down to the bottom, we have this helpful resources piece here. This is going to be these are the three main recipes and kind of things we're going to be doing and going through for the training and kind of as we're going about it. So if you want to follow along, go ahead and check it out here, github.com/PolarityIO/CyberChef. So if you can follow along, that'd be awesome. Before we go ahead and get things started, this is meant to be interactive. So if you do have any questions, once we kind of get into the training and stuff, more than happy to ask them at any point in time. I'll be kind of monitoring that as John is going through these different use cases. But with that, like I said, today's agenda, we're just going to kind of do a quick intro to Polarity, quick intro into what we do, how we work, a quick intro into CyberChef, where you can find some more CyberChef resources. And then we're going to be kind of going through those different use cases. We're looking at 5 different use cases today, and kind of ways that how Polarity and CyberChef kind of interact with each other and how to get the power of both the tools together with that integration. And then, of course, Q&A will definitely have a spot at the end. But if you can and you have any questions, make sure to ask them at any point in time throughout this training. With that, some more on CyberChef. There's some really great resources out there. There's a really great trainer named Matt Weiner. He put together this course, Network Defense. It's also available on our GitHub page if you want to reference it. If you really want to know more about CyberChef and kind of learn more ins and outs of how the tool works, really recommend going to his training page, checking it out. He also has a GitHub page of about 40 plus recipes you can follow along to kind of get how CyberChef works, how you can interact with it, and just kind of get an overall better feel of the tool. Really kind of the training today is going to be how Polarity works with CyberChef, how to get the power of both of them, and how to utilize the two together. The 5 recipes we're going to be, or kind of use cases we're going to be going over today are Google timestamp, a phishing email, some character code that you come across, or char code, PowerShell example, and then kind of a fun walkthrough, which really kind of showcases the power that the two integration or the two tools have. So with that, again, Polarity, what we are, kind of what we do, we are a search tool. So we connect to any data that you care about, that you want to reference, want to know more information about. We're a desktop application that really kind of enables you to search for any data that you want. So here's just an example. I'm going to just kind of really quickly walk through some other things that Polarity can do. Here I have a ServiceNow request. I'm just going to highlight the information. One way to search that we have is through our on-demand only lookup. You can highlight information, hit a quick shortcut key, search that information, and then you get those immediate results from those integrations. You can see here the CVE has information from gray noise, from CVE search, from Mandiant threat intelligence. So really the point of Polarity is to immediately provide you that context around any source that you care about. So you have the information you need to make that decision. So you can search in multiple ways. I know for folks that are users of Polarity, if you're a community user, you probably will really only have the on-demand mode or highlight, but enterprise users get stream and in highlight mode as well. And also kind of our annotation framework pieces to that. But another way to search is just through stream mode, where I can just really kind of be scrolling through and get any context as I'm moving through, no matter what the application is, right? So I'll switch over here to a PCAP data that's kind of exported. Polarity is just providing that context to you as a user, so you have that information you need to make a decision. The other way that Polarity works is through a highlight mode. We're going to highlight that information in line on your screen so you can know that, all right, this IP looks fishy because it has information that is red and purple and gray. I want to know more about that because I know that red for me is kind of that potentially malicious thing I need to pay attention to. So highlight mode is another way to do that contextual searching that really kind of provides that immediate insight to you as you're looking at that information. So as a user, you can go through and again kind of look at whatever that information is, pivot back and forth so you have that context. So with that being said, today we're going to be talking about CyberChef. We're really going to be utilizing the on-demand only functionality. CyberChef in and of itself is an on-demand only integration. So what that means from the Polarity side is that you can only actually interact with it by using the on-demand shortcut key or typing in our search bar, searching for things in Polarity. So it's really meant to provide you that context when you are doing the on-demand search because of the power that CyberChef has and a lot of the different interactions that you can do. So we'll be kind of going more and more in depth in that when we cover the use cases here in a minute. So CyberChef kind of take a step away from Polarity. Now you know what we do at a high level, and again, we'll kind of go through more of Polarity and how you can really get some usefulness with CyberChef. But CyberChef is what is kind of referenced to as the Swiss Army knife of cybersecurity. It's a tool that is built to help take information and convert it into a format that you want to get more out of, whether it's going to converting information from base64, like in the example we'll do with phishing, where you get base64 that's embedded in a URL. You want to know more information about it, you can have CyberChef do that kind of quick conversion for you. Or if you're a pen tester and you're trying to brute force something, there's brute force abilities. There's ways to take data. If you have a password, you can convert it to base64 or convert it to really whatever else you wanted to convert it to. So that's why CyberChef is kind of referred to as the Swiss Army knife of cybersecurity. And we're super excited to have the integration, be able to kind of have Polarity and CyberChef connect and play off each other to really help provide that context and those tools to the analysts. So with that being said, again, any point in time, folks have questions, ask them in the Q&A. I'm going to be monitoring it. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to our awesome integration developer, John Penwood, who's going to walk through some of these use cases.
Thanks, Joe. Hey, everybody. My name is John Penwood. As Joe mentioned, I am an integration developer here at Polarity, and I've worked pretty extensively on the CyberChef integration. And yeah, I'm just going to jump right into it. So our first example, as Joe mentioned, is going to be something involving a Google URL. And seeing right here, there are a few different like query parameters that are on this Google URL, one of which is this IE query parameter. And so what we're going to do is we're going to actually use that as our first example and work through the process of using the CyberChef integration to decode this string here. So
what did you do there to kind of search there? What did you do to pull up that search parameter?
Yeah, so I in terms of finding it in Google or
searching in Polarity, sorry.
Yeah, so all you have to do is you just copy, and you can right click and click search by clipboard. You also have the ability to use a shortcut key as well, and there's a bunch of different ways to kind of be able to search that are all really easy and convenient. So in terms of what is going on here with CyberChef, so you'll notice first there are 3 different sections similar to the web application. There's the input section that contains what you searched, along with a little bit of metadata about that. Then you have your recipe section and your operations section. And so how CyberChef works from a high level is you have these things called operations or steps, and you build out a sequence of steps that each individually do a decoding task. And as you're building out those steps together are what we call a recipe in CyberChef. Yeah, so one of the things that's really convenient about CyberChef, and one of the big benefits of using CyberChef in general, is they have this operation known as a magic function. And what that magic function does is it gives suggestions as to where you can start from in case you don't necessarily know where to go from where you're at, or like where to start. So we have a button right here where you can see the suggestions that CyberChef can give you. And in this example, it's giving a from base 64 suggestion. So we're going to add that to our recipe. And you notice that shows up here along with a few different fields here that we can change. These are our step arguments. And I'm going to actually change this argument here a little bit. And there's a lot of different ways that you can kind of use a CyberChef integration. One is if you have like a pre-known recipe that you know all the steps for, kind of like Joe mentioned earlier with Matt's resources, we have the ability to kind of just know recipes and kind of add them as we go. But also you have the ability to kind of explore data in case you don't necessarily know exactly how to decode data from start to finish. You have the ability to just kind of explore. So this first example is going to be more of like a pre-known recipe. So I'm just going to kind of add steps and explain the platform a little bit. And in future examples, we'll go more into the exploratory use cases. So in this case, we have from base 64. And the next step I'm going to add is actually called 2hex. And what you'll see here is not only can you use the magic function to find operations, you also have the ability to just search anything. So 2hex is listed right here. And I'm going to add that.
And within,
And
oh, sorry, John, but just to let
good.
folks know, within the integration, there's about 100 plus of the functions, like John was able to search there, that are kind of built into the integration. It's not all of them, to let folks know. We don't have every single feature built out that you have with regular CyberChef. The main differences being anything that is a control flow. So if you're trying to add your own regex, or you wanted to do jump features or entropy features, things along those lines, we don't have those built into the integration just yet. That is something that we're going to be looking at doing in future iterations of the integration.
Yeah, definitely. And one thing that is really convenient about the integration as well is you have this ability to link out to the actual full web application as well. And we'll be jumping into that too, and kind of different use cases where you can do that as well. So in case you do need to use those functions that we don't currently support, you will be able to use those by pivoting to the full application as well. So here you'll notice as I added the second step, I'm actually going to change this argument here on this step. And what you'll notice is there's the individual step result from this base 64 operation, but there's also the final output as well. And so you have the ability to collapse each step as you go, just for readability's sake. So that's kind of one thing to point out. And the next step I'm going to add is called take bytes. I'm going to add that. And we're going to change this parameter. Again, this is kind of just a pre-known recipe that I have.
And again, if you wanted to follow along, this is the time recipe that is linked on our GitHub page.
Yeah, exactly. And it's listed, I believe, in the README of CyberChef as well. So those who are following along, you can kind of see the recipe as we're adding the different steps. So here I'm going to add a step called swap endianess. And just continue through adding a few more steps. Next, we're going to add one called from base. This is similar to from base 64, except that you can set the radix to whatever you want. And in this case, it's going to be 16. Oh. And one thing to note there is I accidentally added a second step of the same operation. And one of the things that's really convenient about the CyberChef integration is as you're going through and trying to explore your data and trying to add things, or you might make mistakes here and there, you have the ability to really easily delete steps as you go. So you can try new things and very easily kind of pivot back to a previous point that you were at. So lastly, this is going to be the last step. We're going to actually convert this into a Unix timestamp. And there we go. So this encoded string here is actually the timestamp of when the search was done. So it was done a few days ago. And what we're going to do now is we can actually pivot to the full desktop application with the recipe that you just built out. And so this is really useful in a couple different cases. Sometimes as you're exploring things, you might want to do the same recipe on multiple different pieces of data. And so you can pivot to the full platform and actually save your recipe here. And you also have the ability to load recipes that are pre-built. So as you're building these things out, you can save and load them using the full platform. We're planning on adding a saving and loading feature later, but that is kind of a down the road thing. So for now, you have the ability to use the platform for repeated operations. So you don't have to build out your recipes over and over. And one of the things that's really convenient too is if you have different types of data, or different iterations of the same kind of data, so to speak, you can use the full application to try the same recipe on different data. So here you'll notice I did a different search. We're going to copy that and replace that here. You'll notice it is the current time and UTC time. So that's one of the big benefits of being able to just quickly pivot as you're exploring your data to be able to try different forms of data on the same recipes. So from here, I'm going to move on to another example involving a ticket in ServiceNow and a phishing email. Here in this ticket, we'll see there's a long encoded string that we're trying to get more information about. And so that's actually what we're going to use right now. And we're going to try to just explore what this massive string of data ends up being. One thing to note first is that the input by default is collapsed, and that's due to it just being a very long string. The overlay window, we don't want you to have to scroll up and down throughout the overlay window as you're searching through large forms of data. So we have the ability to collapse that, and also it's around 5,000 characters, so you don't want to be seeing that the whole time. But another thing too is that, like I mentioned before, you have the ability to use that magic, use the magic suggestions to kind of explore the data and give suggestions. So right off the bat, it's suggesting from day 64. So we're going to try that and see what we get. And you'll notice down here in this output, we have some HTML, it seems, some div tags. And as we scroll through, it looks like another encoded string. And then we have a script tag down here with some JavaScript. And so I want to kind of clean this up a little bit so it's a little bit easier to see. And so I'm actually going to use an operation called strip HTML tags. And that's going to just get rid of all the HTML tags, just so I can kind of see things a little bit easier and see what we're looking at. And awesome. So you'll see it remove the HTML tags, but we still have some JavaScript down here. And so this is another example of one of the ways that the CyberChef integration ends up being a great complement to CyberChef is as you're going through and exploring your data, you have the ability to really easily just copy a subset of your data out of the output and then use our shortcut to very easily and quickly kind of pivot to a full new instance of CyberChef, so to speak, where you can explore kind of a subset of data as you're looking through and decoding things. So in this example, we have another instance of from base 64 being suggested. So we're going to try that again. And again, we have some script tags, some document.write functions, and so on. So again, let's do that. Strip HTML tags, just so we can read through a little bit easier. And awesome. So you'll notice this this document.write is still in there, some JavaScript. There's actually multiple document.writes. So I'm going to use an operation known as generic code beautify. And this is just going to format code for us. So any kind of code that you have that you're exploring, the generic code, if I can format it for you. And you'll see here, there's actually 2 document.writes, and that seems to be about it. And so you'll notice in these, we have more encoded strings, another layer of stuff to decode. And we could dig into both of these, but for now, just for the sake of this example, we're just going to search through um, this second string. And decode from here. Again, starting with the magic function. You could, if you know what kind of string you're interacting with, you can obviously just search, but I like using that magic function to kind of hold my hand along the way of exploring the data. And you'll see here, we finally kind of hit decoding bedrock, so to speak. It seems like we have just some JavaScript. And as I'm scrolling through this, I noticed that there is an AJAX request containing a URL. So rather than reading through all of this and making sure I'm grabbing out all of the entities that are of interest to me, I'm actually going to use an operation known as extract URLs. And that's just going to take out all the URLs for me, just so I don't have to do any guesswork in case I miss anything. And you'll see here, we actually only ended up having that one URL. And you can display the total results using this. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to copy the full output. So whenever you want to copy the full output of any step, you can just use our shortcut here and search. And as I'm searching this, you'll note that other integrations are coming up with results for that domain, which shows another kind of really important part of how CyberChef can be useful is as you're decoding these things, you have the ability to use other integrations as they complement CyberChef really well. Because as you're finding these IOCs, you can quickly search them and find data in a multitude of different sources. And you notice here we have a suggestion by VirusTotal that this is related to phishing. And yeah, there's plenty of different ways that this can be used to kind of, as you're exploring your data, pivot to other integrations inside of the overlay window without having to go and search in other locations as well. So that's one very valuable use case.
This really hits home that kind of interaction between the two tools of Polarity and CyberChef. So with CyberChef, you can really take the data, break it down into something, like look at what the code is being executed against you. If it is a phishing example, like this is, which luckily enough for us, this is actually a real example provided by another customer of ours, where they were super excited about the integration as well. Provided us this data that we could utilize for different things, just like this. And the real power comes into play is what John just showed, is being able to break that down, get to that final bit of code, and then being able to pivot on that URL, being able to see that, all right, this is actually contained in a threat source. It is potentially phishing. Being able to take that data, then add that to that ticket, for example, and being able to close that. So you have that contextual awareness to be able to move quickly through your day and kind of make those decisions you need to make.
Yeah, definitely. And we'll have a few more examples too of where we can leverage the Polarity platform using CyberChef as well. So one of the great examples that Joe mentioned we'll be jumping in earlier is with like char code. So here you have someone suggesting that this eval of some char code might be malicious. So we can actually just use the CyberChef integration to check and see what's going on behind the scenes. And again, I'm just going to start with the magic function, and it's suggesting from base 64. So I'm just going to quickly add that. And as you know, this is obviously char code, not base 64. And so we're getting some results that aren't really useful. So that kind of pivots a little bit to how the magic function works. And one of the things that is really important with the magic function is it's not perfect in all cases. You're not always going to be able to it's not always going to be able to hold your hand throughout the process. Sometimes you will have to kind of search through different ways of decoding it. But it is a nice place to start in giving suggestions. And as I mentioned earlier, you have the ability to, as you're exploring things and trying new things out, you have the ability to very easily kind of pivot and delete either your whole recipe or the individual step as you're going through. So as I mentioned, it's obviously char code. So we can search for anything relating to char code. And you'll see here we have an operation known as from char code. So we can try that. And I'm actually going to change this argument from base 16 to base 10. And you'll notice here we have some JavaScript, and we're creating a script tag in here. And the source of that script tag, though, ends up being some more char code. So again, this is another example of how we can just copy and search right away and be able to decode from here. And I'm assuming it's probably the base 10 like before. And here you'll note we have a URL that we can search. So we're trying to find what the source of this script tag is. So we can just copy that and search. And we get a few hits in various places. So here you'll see in virus total, it doesn't really seem to be malicious based on the scans that it's doing. But whenever you go to recorded future, it's indicating that that it might be malicious. So you know, we have just another example of how powerful this integration is. As you're exploring your data, you can very quickly see and learn you know, information very quickly and seamlessly from both CyberChef and from other integrations that we support in Polarity. So from here, we can go over to an example involving a PowerShell script on app.any.run. So here we see there is a script that can be executed in the command line that we're just going to take this and see what's really going on behind the scenes. So I can copy that and search. And we can just use, again, the magic function just to start and see what we get. And it got it first try. So you'll notice we have some more code here. I'm going to use that generic code beautify to format that just a bit. And whenever we format that, you'll see we have a few URLs here that we can search. So just really quickly, we can search these and we get a bunch of hits. So virus total is indicating a lot of different things, and so is recorded future. As we look at those scan results, as we go through, you can kind of individually explore those IOCs as you find them. So yeah.
Again, I'll just kind of jump in here, John. Really reiterating kind of that point of the two products working together, how Polarity can really complement CyberChef, and how CyberChef can complement Polarity in that kind of combination of the two. So being able to quickly pivot between different things as you're kind of breaking data down within Polarity, as well as being able to then pivot on any potential entities or indicators that may be contained within that data that you're breaking down, to really have a complete understanding of what is trying to happen with that base 64 or whatever that bit of information is.
Yes, definitely. And another example that we have too, where this can be really useful, we kind of came up with an example just showing off a few of the features of CyberChef and a few different ways that you can, you know, two different operations, just to kind of show off a little bit of the integration and all the different things that you can do with it. So I've taken this almost 10,000 character long string and searched it, and it looks like it's octal. So we're going to go to magic, and you'll see from the top it suggests octal, but it's also suggesting a bunch of other possible ways of decoding it. And, like I mentioned, it's not necessarily always 100%, but, one of the great things about using the integration is, again, you can explore really easily. Um, and you'll see it kind of came up with something from here that looks like binaries. So we can try magic again. And the first suggestion is from binaries. So we can try that. And in here, there's a bunch of dots and dashes. And the first suggestion is that we're looking at Morse code. So we can take Morse code, the Morse code operation, and decode that. And from there, we have some hex code. Again, we're just looking at the magic function, exploring really quickly what's going on, and just continuing to go through. We have from base 64, and there we go. So next, we'll try base 64 again. It's suggesting base 64. And it doesn't really look like that is leading me down the right path. From here, there doesn't seem to be any more magic suggestions, and I don't really know where to go from here. So again, you can you can delete things. One thing also to mention is that you do have the ability to move steps around as you're exploring your data. So you can change the order of things really easily as well. And so we can try the next magic suggestion really quick. And that doesn't seem to work. So maybe something in between. We can try maybe base 62. And there we go. So now we have our domain, and I'm going to hand it off to Joe to explain why each of you should be visiting this domain.
Yeah. So this really to kind of take it back to that use case, right? So if you are a pen tester or something along those lines, and you have information like this URL, you can really encode it. So is actually what we did was we took this URL, encoded it with the CyberChef integration, with all of those different steps that you see there that the CyberChef was able to detect along the way and break down. So really just kind of goes to showcase that the power of the integration and the combination of those tools. And we put together something fun. Our CEO, who I don't know if is on the call, he said he might join. Big CyberChef fan. He was able to put together some stuff. So really want to go check that out. Player.io/Paul. So again, that kind of concludes the training for today. If you want more resources, you can of course check out that URL, or you can go to our GitHub page, the github.com/player.io/cyberchef, and see those helpful information. Again, I'm gonna plug Matt's training with network defense. It's a really great training. Check out his GitHub page, really get more in depth on what CyberChef is, what it can provide you, and how to utilize the two tools. To kind of reiterate some stuff that we're going to be working on longer term. So longer term with the integration, we are going to be able to save out the recipes from within the integration, add recipes. It is something that we're looking to do. We're also looking to add in those control flow pieces, like I talked about before, like the regexes, and being able to do the jump commands, those types of things. So really, those are kind of the future of where we're going to go with the integration. Really want to try and get as much feature parity as we can between the two. And with that, again, thanks for jumping on our webinar today. It's the first of many to come. The ones in the future are going to be a little bit more kind of in depth in how to use CyberChef and Polarity. This was just kind of a good high level overview of the training and kind of what the tools can provide. And with that, I'll turn it over if there are any other questions that folks have. I think there's a Q&A piece on Zoom. I think you kind of have to like type in the questions if you do have them. If not, then we really appreciate everybody's time today for jumping on. And again, check out the URL, player.io/Paul. It's some fun resources. And with that, I hope everybody has a good April Fools. And thanks for jumping on.